Hello and welcome to Release Readiness Live. I'm Elna Miller, your Release Readiness champion. We are here in the studio all this week to talk about new features from the Spring 20 release across all the major clouds. In this broadcast, we're talking about platform. Our hope is that whether this is your first Salesforce release or your 20th, you'll learn something new that you can use. Our product team is right here in the studio to tell you about some new features, do some live demos, and answer questions on the air. Speaking of questions, let's take a quick moment to review how this works. We will be monitoring both the Release Readiness Trailblazers community and Twitter. And the most important thing to remember is to use the hashtag #SalesforceLive. Now, I recommend posting your longer, more thoughtful questions in the community where the conversation can actually continue after the webcast. If we don't get to your question on the air, we'll be sure to follow up with you within the next few days. Now, we are recording this broadcast, so you can watch it back whenever you like. And since we may be covering the roadmap, we will be making some forward-looking statements, so please make your purchasing decisions based on currently available functionality. And now, let's meet our product managers. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Angela, and I'm a product manager for the Salesforce mobile app. I'm really excited to tell you about the brand new Salesforce mobile app that all users will be upgraded to in the Spring 20 release.
Hi, I'm Ravinder. I'm a director of product management in Search team. I'm here to talk about exciting new features we're launching in Einstein Search in the Spring 2020, and I also educate our viewers who do not know much about Einstein Search how to enable Einstein Search for their organization.
Hi, I'm Rohit, and I'm a product manager for developer environments, sandboxes, and scratch orgs. Today, I'm here to talk about a new and exciting product that Salesforce just released called Salesforce Data Mask.
Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Brains. I'm the product manager for Sustainability Cloud. Salesforce launched Sustainability Cloud back in December to help organizations track, measure, and reduce their carbon footprints.
Great, thank you. Now, I've learned a lot about the mobile app in the last few weeks, and so I'm really looking forward to hearing more about it. So let's go ahead with you, Angela.
Great, thanks, Elna. So you might have heard a little bit about the Salesforce mobile app already because it already went GA in the winter release. We've completely reimagined the Salesforce app from the ground up because you, our customers, inspired us by building so many amazing customizations for mobile that we never could have imagined. So the new Salesforce mobile app is designed to be easy to customize for all your different use cases. It's also smart. We've built AI into our core features. And your users can be more productive than ever because it's also really easy to use. Here are some of the feature highlights of the new Salesforce mobile app. Lightning on Mobile takes your existing customizations that you've already built and makes them available in the Salesforce app. Einstein Analytics is a world-class business intelligence tool that you can now access on your phone right within the app. And Einstein Voice Assistant allows you to update records without typing. The coolest thing about Einstein Voice is that you can do things like updating opportunities or logging calls, and you don't have to fill out a huge form on a tiny screen. You just have to answer a few simple questions. You can talk or you can type, and that gets automatically mapped to the right records and fields within Salesforce. This is just a small sample of the great new functionality that you'll get with the new app. All your users will get upgraded to the new Salesforce mobile app in February whenever your org is updated to the spring release. This is a completely free upgrade and no action is required to enable it. Your users don't have to download a new app. They'll get automatically upgraded within the app they already have on their phone. And the mobile navigation items that your users are already accustomed to are going to be preserved in the menu tab at the bottom right of the new version. We've also built in tooltips for new features and functionality so users can get up to speed really quickly. As an admin, if you do nothing for this upgrade, your users will have a completely seamless transition to the new app. But you also have the option to enable your existing customizations for mobile and really take advantage of the power of the platform. You can enable your Lightning apps and navigation, your record pages, and your components. And you can customize all of these for mobile without any code inside the Lightning App Builder. So let's jump to a demo and see what this actually looks like. Here I have Salesforce up on my computer side by side with my phone, and I'm actually going to jump into the Salesforce app on my phone as well. And this is a Lightning app that we've customized for our executives. So they really care about dashboards and reports. So we've added these navigation items here tailored to what they need to do in order to get their work done. And in the Salesforce mobile app, we have these same navigation items. So the navigation that you've already set up for desktop now flows seamlessly into the Salesforce mobile app. And if I, as a user, want to personalize my navigation, maybe I'm an executive and I want analytics to be my first tab, I can just drag this over on my computer, pull to refresh on my phone, and I instantly see that change reflected. Analytics is at the top of the menu, and I also see it here at the bottom of my screen in my navigation, so it's always going to be one tap away. It'll be the first thing that opens when I open the app. Speaking of analytics, Einstein Analytics is now available inside the Salesforce mobile app. On desktop, users are used to being able to see all their dashboards so they can make critical business decisions, look through their favorites. And now that same functionality is available inside the mobile app. And it looks great. Let's jump into what a dashboard actually looks like on the computer, and let's view the same dashboard on mobile. So we can see how great this looks. It's really optimized for the small screen. It's fully interactive. You can see all of your normal filters, and you can do all this on the go. So this is a great setup for our execs, but we also have a bunch of other types of users who need to use Salesforce, including, of course, our sales reps. So we've set up another Lightning app for our sales reps. And on the computer, we can access our Lightning apps by going into the app launcher here. And this same app launcher is now available on mobile inside the menu tab. So I'm going to go into that as well. And all these Lightning apps that we have available on the computer are available in the mobile app too. So let's go ahead and jump into the sales app. And let's go there on our phone as well. So we can see that we have some different navigation items set up for sales. They spend all their time in accounts and opportunities, leads, and we see those same navigation items on mobile. And the bottom navigation has even changed as well. So we have these two completely different navigation configurations, all within one single downloadable app on our phone. So we have customized navigation for sales, but we also want to make sure that our record pages are really tailored to their workflow. So let's jump into an account record page. And let's view that same page on mobile. So we can see we have our components here, but this is a pretty standard record page. We've got our highlights component, our tabs component, and we can see that this is optimized for mobile. We can tap into details and drill back out. But we really want to make this a lot more relevant to our particular user workflows. So let's jump in to edit this page in the Lightning App Builder. And in the App Builder, we have this brand new phone preview mode here. So I can switch between seeing what this will look like on desktop and what it'll look like on phone. So let's stick with the phone preview and add some more components here. Let's add the report chart component so our users can see an overview of some data when they're viewing this page. And we're also going to add the flow component. Oops, let's make sure to put that not inside a tab. And we are going to add the in-person questions flow. So this is really great if you want your sales reps to ask a set of questions to customers every time they go on site. And we don't see the preview here, but I'll show you what it looks like live in just a moment here. And we're also going to add the Get There component. This is actually a custom component that we built. If you're a sales rep and you're about to go to a meeting with a customer, you want to be able to, in one tap, just get your directions pulled up to go to that account. So this allows you to do that. And because this is all based on location and getting to a meeting, it really only makes sense on a phone. So we are going to go ahead and set a component visibility filter to make this available on phone only. And let's go ahead and do the same thing with our flow component. Great, so I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to save this. And let's go back to our phone, and I'm going to full screen this. I'm going to pull to refresh on my phone. Oh, we see our tooltips coming up as well. And we see our changes reflected immediately here on this record page. If you've ever built your own mobile app from scratch, then you know that it can often take weeks going through the app publication process in order to make changes. So being able to do this instantly, respond to feedback in real time is really amazing. So here we have our flow now appearing. And I can go through and ask a customer if they need any additional services like video conferencing. Ask if they want to participate in user research, and finish this flow right from the record page. And the coolest part about this is that in the background, this can kick off whatever automated processes you have attached to this flow. In this case, it's going to go ahead and create an opportunity for that account with those additional services. And now that this record page has a bunch of good information on it, if I'm a sales rep viewing this record, I might want to share it with a colleague. And I can do that with this new share icon at the top of the screen. I can tap that to share this directly with one of the other apps on my phone, or I can just copy the link to this record and share it however I want. And if the person receiving that link has access to this record, they'll be able to open it on their computer or on their phone. It works on any device, just like the URL that you'd copy from your address bar. So to kind of recap what we've gone through here, we were just able to customize the Salesforce mobile app for multiple different user types. We took a look at the brand new Einstein Analytics experience in the Salesforce mobile app. We customized our record page to make it really relevant for our particular users, and we were able to share a URL to that page right from within the mobile app. So that's it for the demo.
All right, thank you. So that was a really quick but really impactful demo there. So I could see there's lots of opportunity to customize this app way more than you could ever do in the previous app, and even,
Yes.
you know, there's been a lot of demand for customization specifically for the smaller screen, and now you can have a different experience on the desktop, and it just automatically optimizes for mobile. So really
Yeah.
cool. Thank you. Now, did you say this is completely free? There's no additional charge, and it's just going to happen automatically?
Yes, exactly. It's completely free, and we've really thought of that transition for users and for admins. So you don't have to take any action. Your users don't have to take any action. When your org is upgraded for the spring release, your users are going to see this new mobile app with this welcome screen that tells them they've been upgraded and tooltips helping explain these new features.
Even if they're using Classic on the desktop, they will still get this new mobile app?
Yes, even if they're using Classic, as long as your Lightning org pref is on, you will get the new Salesforce mobile app, all your users will get the mobile app, and it'll be a really seamless transition.
Yes, and I believe this does coincide with the Lightning org pref coming on automatically as well.
Conveniently,
so
it
most
does,
people
yes.
will have that, yeah. So maybe a few exceptions out there, but other than that,
Yeah.
should already be the case. Now, Ruth and Andre were wondering also about Einstein Voice. So could you
Yes.
explain a little bit more is this an add-on? Is this cost extra? And how can people get it?
Yeah, so Einstein Voice is going to be in beta at some point during the spring release. So this is going to be a beta feature. I'm not sure if it is going to be an extra cost. I know in the pilot it was a free add-on. But if you want to get more of a deep dive of Einstein Voice as well as Einstein Analytics, I would definitely recommend checking out the Lightning Lounge webinar that we did a couple weeks ago, or that my coworkers did a couple weeks ago, on getting ready for the new Salesforce mobile app.
Yes, I will share the link to the recording for anybody who wants it. Just let me know. Just mention me in the community. If I recall correctly, because I was on that webinar, that if you have ever purchased a Einstein product, then you should get Einstein Voice.
That sounds
I think
right.
that's correct.
Yes.
And if you have not previously purchased an Einstein product and you want to try out Einstein Voice, then you just need to contact your account executive and they can request that it be enabled for you so you can test it out. But it is only going to be available in production. It's not actually available in sandboxes today. So you will have to wait until Spring 20 goes into production in your org, and that you can check on the Trust website what that date is. So that was a common question we had in the webinar. So Chris was wondering about the Home tab. So in mobile, he's noticed that the Home tab that's on Lightning Desktop doesn't appear in Lightning Mobile. So what's the story with that? Are we moving away from the Home tab in mobile, or is this on the roadmap?
Yeah, that's a great question, and definitely one of the biggest things that we've heard from customers. Right now, there's no timeline for the Home tab being enabled for mobile, unfortunately, but there is a great workaround where you can actually use a Lightning app page as your first tab, or set any other type of page as the first tab, and that will be reflected on mobile.
All right, well, we do still have more questions coming in, but we also have more content to share with you. So we'll try to get to some more questions at the end, but for now, I'm going to hand it over to Ravender, and we'll hear about Einstein Search, which is also a really cool feature.
Yes, thank you, Elna. Cool. So I will take an opportunity to talk about the cool new features that we're launching in Einstein Search in spring 2020. But also I want to take an opportunity to talk about what the Einstein Search is. Since it's running as a beta program, a lot of viewers may not know about it. So I'll also demo the new cool features about Einstein Search and also how to enable it for your org. So before we get there, actually I want to talk about and highlight that it's free. The Einstein Search is free and running as a beta program. People who have Lightning enabled and have unlimited enterprise or performance edition can now avail Einstein Search since I think winter 2020. What is Einstein Search? So Einstein Search makes it easier to find and do things by bringing the power of Einstein AI to Salesforce Search. Einstein Search has three key pillars. One is personal, second natural, third is actionable. I'm going to talk about each of these pillars and also will demo you in live. Personal. By personal, we mean that we provide the relevant results based on individuals and their work. Previously, if you search for any query, all the users in the same org will get the same results. But with Einstein Search, we personalize the search results at the user level by learning the hidden preferences of the user based on geography, industry, account type, users, and admins do not need to do any configuration for each user. Our machine learning algorithms and AI is in work all the time to learn these hidden preferences of users and working hard to personalize it so all the users in your org do the less click and spend less time finding the search results and spend more time doing the actual stuff that matters. Second pillar is natural. By natural, we mean that Einstein Search can now accommodate and entertain queries like your natural queries. Like you can search like my open opportunities, right? Previously, my open opportunity would return you the search results where the records will contain one of these three keywords. But with Einstein Search, we understand that you're looking for opportunities which are currently open and that belongs or owned by you. Isn't that cool? So that's natural. The third pillar is actionable. Actionable is actually one of the very exciting features. We have changed the overall search dialog experience on the search page. So when you start typing, you see this new experience in Actionable, where you don't even need to go to the search results page to find the record. If you can disambiguate between these different records of Acme, as you can see on the screenshot, and you can directly jump to one of these records by clicking on it, skipping the whole search results page step. Let's go to the cool part of this presentation, which is demo. So I'm going to introduce you two sales agent. One is Ben, and other is Kara. So Ben deals with accounts that belongs to California area. So when Ben types my open opportunities, he will see all the open opportunities that are owned by Ben. So you see that Ben is currently seeing only the opportunities that are owned by him and currently open status. Similarly, when Kara does the same query, she will only see the search records from her account that she currently owns. So now you don't need to go through all the search results to find the opportunity that belongs to you. It saves a lot of clicks and time for all the users by using natural language. Now let's come to the personalization part. When Kara searches for Acme, since Kara deals with the accounts in the Connecticut area, she will see the search results and accounts for Connecticut area, as you can see in this column. Whereas when Ben searches the same query, Ben will see the accounts from California area, because we learned this over the period of time that Ben deals with the California as a region, and Kara deals with the Connecticut as a region in her org. So that's natural. That's personalization. Let's come to the actionable part. So now, while you're typing the search query, you can see that we are showing the previews of the different accounts. You can go directly to any of these accounts, but this also works very well by disambiguating between these different Acmes. We have learned from our customers that there are a lot of accounts start with a similar prefix, or maybe have the same account with the same name based on the different regions. So now you can disambiguate between these different accounts by hovering over this and then also going directly to one of these accounts if that is something you want to work with. So that's actionable. Now let's come to the enablement process about how you can enable Einstein search in your org. And that's super easy. It's going to take just a couple of minutes. So over here you can see this is our admin Chris. Chris currently does not have Einstein search enabled. As you can see, this is the old search dialog box. Now we will enable Einstein search for Chris. First, we'll enable personalization. We go to the admin setup as an administrator, and then we search for Einstein search here. Over here, you can see that there's search settings. You can go to search settings and click all users get personalization search results and save it. Now, did you just enable Einstein search for whole org? No. As admin, you control which users gets the Einstein search, but the personalization feature gets enabled for whole org. But there's no difference in customer experience yet. We will get there. Now let's come to how to enable the rest of natural language and actionable part. For doing that, you have to go to permission sets. And you need to add an Einstein search license, which again is a free. There's no cost to enable Einstein search for one single user or for all the users in your organization. Over here, we will create a new permission set. We will name it Einstein_search. Or in the license, you have to find Einstein search. And the list, you can see that there's Einstein search here. We will click save. Now you have added license of Einstein search, but you haven't enabled Einstein search for any of the users. For that, we will go to system permissions. You will click edit here and enable Einstein search natural language as well as the actionable part that I showed you. All right, so now did we enable Einstein search for Chris? Not yet. right? Because we haven't added a Chris to the Einstein search permission set yet. For that, you can now manage assignment for each individual user. So you can see that when you click Manage Assignments, there's no single user added to the Einstein search yet. Now you can add an assignment here. We have to find Chris Roberts here. So this is search by last name. So I'm going to, our admin, Chris Roberts. Here's Chris. I will assign him Einstein search. Click Done. So now we just enable Einstein search for Chris. Let's see if it's reflected here. Yes. So now you can see the new search dialog box for Chris. This is how we enable Einstein. This is how you can verify that this user has Einstein search or not. How long did it take? I think it took barely a minute or two. Again, you will decide which users will get Einstein search experience by enabling individual users. You can also add the whole org in the one go. So it's all up to the admins who control the whole experience. Now let's get back to the presentation. Let's talk about Spring 20 beta limitations. So as I said in the beginning of the presentation that Einstein search is running as a beta program. So there are some limitations of beta program, and I'm going to talk about those. It requires Lightning, and you need to have one of these three editions of Salesforce: Unlimited, Enterprise, or Performance. We are currently not available on Classic, Community Search, or Knowledge Search. There are also some limitations related to natural language. We are only supporting English, but we definitely have plans to support other languages in the future. Natural language queries do not recognize renamed object. So in the demo I showed you my open opportunities. If in your organization you have renamed opportunities as deals, so my open deals would not work. And similarly, we have some limitation related to personalization. It's not compatible with the Shield platform encryption. We are also not available or supporting government cloud at this point of time. And in Spring 20, we are removing one of the requirements that we had previously, where all the users, your org need to have 150 licenses to enable personalization. We are removing this requirement in the Spring 2020. So even if you have less than 150 licenses, you can enable personalization features. So these were the limitations related to beta. But as you may know, or notice that here, that there was no limitation related to actionable part. You can still enable actionable part, which if you do not follow any of these limitations. Let's talk about new features we're launching in Spring 2020 release. There are definitely a lot of improvements coming in our whole experience on the Einstein search, but I want to highlight these three important and key features. We will be providing personalized suggestions moving forward from Spring 2020. So not only your search results are going to be personalized, but your suggestions are also going to be personalized, where you start typing it, you or your other user in your organizations may see different suggestions based on their usage. Similarly, we will also be explaining how we interpret your natural language queries. So if you have searched for open opportunities created this month, we will show you the filters which are not yet editable in this release, but those filters will explain you that what we interpreted from your natural language query. We are also adding support for date queries, which are definitely one of the popular asks by users. Now you can search for cases closed in last 30 days, cases closed in last 3 months. So we will be able to support these queries, and we will show you the records or the search results based on these date queries. There are definitely many other improvements related to performance that we are happening in Spring 2020. We will be definitely excited to hear back the feedback from you. There's another feature I want to highlight, which is not just limited to Einstein search. This is profile-based layouts. Now, administrators can configure how to show different columns on the search page for different profiles. So this was definitely a very popular ask, where admins can now set up different profiles for search layouts, where these profiles will see different search results based on how admins have configured these profiles. This was very, very popular ask by our users, and it's not limited to Einstein search. This is actually available all across search. That's it from me. And again, I want to highlight, this is how you can reach out to us. This is our email. If you need any support to enable Einstein search, please feel free to reach out to us. And again, it's free. go back to your organization and enable it. I also want to announce that if you enable Einstein Search in the next 7 days, we are giving away some soft Salesforce goodies. Yes, so all you need to do is that enable Einstein Search in your org, take a screenshot of actionable search dialog box so that we know that at least you enabled for one user, and post it on Trailblazer community for release readiness group. And we will select randomly 10 people to whom we send our Salesforce goodies.
Who doesn't love swag? Go for it, guys. So, there's minds being blown out there. I mean, the natural language and personalization, it's really powerful, and it's going to be great for users. Search is really the best way to find stuff.
Right.
Trying to browse through lists and, it could take forever. So thank you for those advancements. And let's just review. Who is it available for and where is it available?
Yeah.
So let me see if I got this right. So Enterprise and above, which would include Unlimited and Performance Edition. And this is only available in Lightning Experience, not in Classic. And I'm very sorry, Kelly, but only your Lightning users are going to be able to benefit from this. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Another reason why you should move to Lightning now.
That's right. It's another reason. Add it to your list, right, for those users who are still in Classic. So a couple more questions, and then I think we need to move on. So let me do 2 quick ones here. A couple of people were asking, what if you wanted to not go beyond just your records, or what if you have records that are, let's say, assigned to some kind of a default user, or owned by a default user? Does it still personalize based on, let's say, your usage of that record, or is it mainly based on the ownership?
Yeah, it's mainly based on ownership. So if the question, if I understand correctly, asking the record is owned by somebody else, and they want to search for that record by putting a name in the query. Is that like a portion owned by Ben? Is that what they're asking? I
think maybe they were thinking that if you search, that it tries to find your stuff first. But if you're not looking for your stuff, does that somehow, does it go broader if you want to go broader beyond your stuff?
Yeah, we learn over the period of time personalization part. So if you're interacting with that record over the duration, we will definitely be looking for this query that you are interacting with this record, and we learn over the period of time. Also mentioned in my presentation some of the key features we use for personalization, which is like location, user types, object type. So if those parameters are being used in those record types personalized, you will definitely see the improvement in your search results.
So it'll get smarter over time.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Yes. Okay. So if you search a lot, then you're going to get to your stuff even quicker over time. Yeah, great. Well, we actually have quite a few other questions for you, but I do need to turn it over to Rohit so he can talk about some great Sandbox features. So over to you, and then we'll try to get back at the end with some more questions.
Thanks, Elna. So modern Application Lifecycle Management, or ALM, it's a fast, efficient, trusted process of building applications. Salesforce provides tooling for all phases of the life cycle and allows developers and admins to plan, code, build, test, and release applications without disrupting their productivity. There is Quip, where you can manage your project timelines and come up with your product requirements. There is the Salesforce command line interface, or the CLI, which aggregates all the different APIs within Salesforce. There are plugins for code editors, such as the VS Code, that let developer write Apex and Sockle and Lightning Web Components very easily. There are developer environments such as Dev and Dev Pro sandboxes and Scratchworks, where you can make changes securely without affecting your production org. There are packaging technologies so that you can launch these applications either on the App Exchange, or you can install it within your production orgs. And then last but not the least, you have these amazing test environments in the form of partial and full sandboxes that provide near replicas of your production org so that you can test very effectively. Now, today, I want to talk a little bit more about solving challenges as it pertains to creating secure and compliant data sandboxes. Now, you might ask, why is a secure and data sandbox necessary? Or in other words, why is obfuscation needed? Now, every time you create a partial or a full sandbox, is copying over data from your production org into this development, into this environment for testing. It's introducing a potential new risk vector in copying over all the sensitive and confidential information that you might have in your production org. I mean, think for a second, all the information that you have in production. You have user information, you might have some deals and opportunity information, and you might also have some sales accounts that you might consider sensitive. All of these introduce a potential risk vector as you introduce and copy those into an environment. Secondly, there's production orgs are typically very closely managed and regulated. So you know exactly who is logging into these production orgs. You have the right permissions and profiles set up for these users. There's basically managed access in production. You might also be using Shield for encrypting data at rest, or using event monitoring for monitoring who gets data access, or also using two-factor authentication for protected login. However, some of these tools may be missing or lacking within your sandbox environments, and that also introduces more risk. Finally, there are typically more users that log into your sandbox orgs that don't have access to your production orgs. These could be internal developers, these could be external developers from a contracting firm, or it could be just external users within your distributed teams that typically don't have access to production data or have lower privileges in production, but now have additional access and additional privileges within a sandbox environment. All of these are ways in which your data within a sandbox environment can be compromised. And so this is where teams spend a lot of time in either using a third-party tool or building homegrown custom scripts in order to scrub that data or obfuscate the data within sandboxes. Now, this process is either expensive, it's complex, or it's time-consuming. And this is why Salesforce has built a new product and a new solution for this problem, and that's called Salesforce Data Mask. Salesforce Data Mask was announced at Dreamforce 19, and it was launched shortly thereafter, last month in December. It is a managed package that is installed within your production org, and it helps to customize, build, and test on the Salesforce platform while protecting secure, sensitive data. It meets all your compliance needs. Personal information, personally identifiable information, and personal health information can be obfuscated 100% native on the platform without the data ever leaving your Salesforce org. It addresses data security. It empowers admins, developers, and business analysts to log into sandboxes and make changes without, again, risking any sensitive data. You can develop and manage with agility. Data Mask includes some extremely proprietary pre-processing that makes the masking process extremely fast. We've seen a lot of customers who've used this product already report that what used to take them several days has now shrunk into a few hours in order to mask the entire full sandbox. And finally, it increases productivity. You can only imagine that with more secure sandboxes, you can now use data sandboxes not just for testing, but also for your development lifecycle, where your developers have access to some real-world data while building applications, thereby creating extremely high-quality user experiences and applications. So, enough of talking. I want to jump into a demo of Data Mask so that you understand how this product works. So what I have here displayed on my screen is a production org. And I have a custom object that I've created, which is typical of most production orgs. It's called applicants. Within applicants, I have some records which you might consider quite sensitive. There's information about politicians, celebrities, CEOs, a musician, and you'll notice that there's, again, highly sensitive information with their email addresses displayed, their phone numbers, salary information, social security information, as well as some other information out here. Now, while this is secured within your production org, you might have guessed that the developers and testers should not necessarily have access to this within a sandbox org. At the same time, you don't want to compromise or reduce the efficiency of developers' testing and development needs. So you want this data copied into a sandbox, but you just want to mask it. You want to change it so that it represents the essence of applicants, but does not, again, show anything that you might consider private. As I mentioned, Data Mask is a managed package which is installed within your production org. It can be configured in your production org, where you decide all the different rules that you want to apply for data masking. Every time you create a sandbox, the masking rules are copied into the sandbox, where you execute data masking. You can create new rules, or you can update existing configurations within a sandbox. So let me show you what that looks like. I have here, let me just quickly jump out of this. I have here the package called Data Mask that got copied into my sandbox org. You know it's a sandbox because it shows this little banner on the top which says full test, which is the name of my full sandbox. I have a few configurations that I created beforehand. Let's jump into one of them called mask PII. So once I edit, it shows me the name, some description, which lets me just quickly note down why I had created this data mask. And then it shows me some settings. These settings are organization-wide and places where sensitive data typically lives that you may not have even been aware of, or you might not think about changing and hiding. There is an option to anonymize case comments. Anonymizing essentially replaces case comments with some random text. You can also choose to delete all email messages from your sandbox org. Again, emails are a source of sensitive information. You can also choose to delete all chatter. In case the sandbox was created with chatter and you changed your mind about what the sandbox should include, you can quickly and very easily delete chatter messages. In the section below is a list of all the objects that are present within your org. These are not just your standard objects, but also the custom objects which show up at the bottom of this list. These could be custom objects that you've created within your org, or ones that have come via managed packages. Let's take a look at the custom object that I was looking at previously called applicants. For each field, I have the ability to configure a data masking rule. For emails, I can choose between one of three different options. I can choose to replace with random characters, or I can choose to replace from library, or I can just choose to delete the data. Replacing with random characters puts together some random text, which may not be discernible and readable, but it at least puts some information there so that the user is aware that there was information previously in the production org for that record. It's also a great way to make sure that required fields have some information and are relevant, but at the same time don't include anything from production. Replace from library lets a user decide what they would like to replace that production email address with. In this case, replacing with library allows me to select a library for email. Now, libraries are built-in dictionaries which have replacement values for values that you have in production. In this case, Data Mask is smart that it understands that an email should be replaced with an email, and it only provides me one option, which is the email library. I can also choose to just delete that field if that data is irrelevant for testing. Similarly, let's look at another text field, which is last name. Here, I have chosen the option to replace from library, and I'm presented with more options because it's a text field. I can choose to pick a first name. I can choose to pick a last name. There are libraries available for all different types of text fields where you typically have sensitive information. Delete, as I mentioned, would just delete the qualifications if I decide that I don't need this for my testing. For number fields, there is an option to select min and max. This is a great way to provide a range, but at the same time, give you some random values. Another thing I would like to point out here is Data Mask is not just intelligent, but it's also integrated very closely with the data classification feature that's available in all production orgs. If you've previously decided what sensitivity levels should apply to different fields, that information around sensitivity will be displayed in this page right next to every field, so you know exactly where data masking should be applied, and your admins who customize and build these rules can more easily and quickly do that. Now, once data mask has been configured, I can choose to I execute it within the sandbox. This is the view of the same object after data masking has run. Notice how the first name and last name are a different value. The email is also completely random, but it has maintained the integrity of an email address. Phone numbers, again, appear as phone numbers, but are different from production. Salary information has been generated between the range that I provided previously of 60,000 and 80,000. Qualification was a field that I chose to be deleted, and that's why it's completely empty. Title was something that I thought was irrelevant from a data security point of view, and so title information was just copied over as is from production. So that's a great way. This is a quick and easy way to make sure that your sandboxes are secure. Now that I've shown you the demo, I want to jump back to slides, and I want to show you, or I want to talk about a very small but important update that we've made to sandboxes. Now, as you might know, Salesforce does 3 major releases every year, and they automatically upgrade all orgs within Salesforce to the latest and greatest features and bug fixes that we have at Salesforce. This is a very convenient way to make sure that you have the latest version of the software. At the same time, we have a program called a Sandbox Preview, which lets you conveniently test all your customizations on the next version of Salesforce in something that we call preview sandboxes before your production org has upgraded. Now, in order to leverage this program, you have to create sandboxes a month or so before every sandbox release date and create essentially a preview sandbox. A lot of feedback that we've got from customers has been that this program is a bit inflexible and that you have to pay attention to dates in order to leverage these preview sandboxes. Well, I would love to announce that we have added some more flexibility options where now you can leverage sandbox cloning in order to create preview sandboxes at any time. All you need is a preview sandbox that you previously created that you can maintain release over release, and all you have to do is clone that sandbox at any time during the release window in order to get another preview sandbox for your testing needs. That's a great, great enhancement, and we are looking at additional ways of adding more flexibility into this whole process so that more and more of you can start testing within sandboxes before every Salesforce release. So that's all I had to demo and talk about today. Back to you, Elna.
Well, I have to say, I really appreciate the Sandbox Preview cloning because I know we talked to a lot of customers about not missing the boat and not waiting too long to get that preview sandbox. And so now, as long as you make sure you have at least one preview sandbox, you can create additional ones now. So that's a huge step forward. And sometimes those little things make a big difference, so thanks for that. And the data mask is really cool and definitely something that a lot of folks might not think about when they're replicating the data. So great way to protect it, even further. So we had one good question about data mask from Squire, which is, can you save the config so that it can be used in other sandboxes later on?
Absolutely. One of the things that we recommend is configuring all your data masking rules within the production org. From there, every sandbox that you create will get the data masking rule. You can have as many of these rules or configurations as you need, and they'll all be saved in your production org over time. You can also create new configurations within the sandbox org directly.
Okay. And just to clarify, on Data Mask, is that an add-on, a paid product that you need to purchase separately?
Yeah, Salesforce Data Mask is a paid product. It is a managed package that gets installed within your production org, and you need licenses in order to access it. So contact your sales rep, and they'll give you more information about your purchasing options.
Okay. And when does the actual masking process happen? Is it during sandbox creation?
So right now, data masking happens after the sandbox has been created. It's actually initiated by the admin or the sandbox administrator, where they log into the sandbox and execute data masking. We are looking at ways of integrating the experience with the sandbox creation process so that you can create as well as mask at the same time. But that's something that's on our roadmap, and we'll be working on it over the next few months.
Okay, and can data masking be run in production?
That's a great question. Data masking cannot be run in production. Data mask changes the data in the database. So it's completely replacing all your production data in an irreversible manner where there's no way to get back the original data. We understand that this could be extremely dangerous if it was run in a production org. And so we've taken great efforts to not let data mask ever be executed in a production org. So it can only be run within a Sandbox org.
So it's kind of like the digital equivalent of redaction, right? Blacking out the lines of text.
Exactly.
Can't see it anymore after that. Yeah. So if you wanted something like that in production, you would use encryption or one of the other tools like that, right?
Right.
What about validation rules and triggers? Are they affected by data mask?
That's a great question. So during data mask, the process, the app disables validation rules, triggers, workflow rules, as well as field history. So there isn't any other side effects to running data mask. Once data mask is completed, it re-enables the ones that were previously enabled within your sandbox. So it gets around that constraint, that limitation by disabling and then re-enabling. We are looking at ways to let you define the data that you want to be added, that you want the data masking process to use, so that you can define your own data sets that work with your own validation rules. So that's something that we're working on in the future.
Okay, great. Thank you. So how about we hear a little bit about Sustainability Cloud?
Great.
From Kevin.
I would love to talk about Sustainability Cloud, and I don't think there's anything extremely dangerous in Sustainability Cloud. So, hi everybody. Yeah, I'm Kevin Brains. I'm the product manager for Sustainability Cloud, and as I mentioned at the intro, Sustainability Cloud is a product that we launched in December, actually the same day that we launched Data Mask. So, why do it? Salesforce for years has been a leader in the industry on the leading edge of sustainability, and we have a phrase here at Salesforce called "We eat our own dog food." And our sustainability team was doing our corporate carbon footprinting pretty much the same way that most companies do it, which is in spreadsheets. Doing it in spreadsheets is extremely cumbersome, makes it more complex. There's no way to really collaborate in spreadsheets. They're kind of siloed, all the kind of good and bad things about spreadsheets, right? Spreadsheets can be very flexible, but they also can really constrain you. So our sustainability team under Patrick and Sue said, there's got to be a better way. Why don't we try to do this on Salesforce? So starting about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, they did. So they started doing Salesforce's corporate carbon footprinting on a Salesforce app, and they slowly built that out. And as it got more and more robust, and as they put more and more of Salesforce's corporate data into their app that they were building, they realized last year that it really took the time to complete the process from 6 months down to 6 weeks, which is an incredible value, right? I mean, you're talking about 6 months of effort just to report out publicly what our corporate environmental footprint is, which we do, by the way, in a lot of different ways. So one is we report to something called the Carbon Disclosure Project. Another thing is we put it into our investor releases, like our SEC filings, like our 10K. We also have something called our Stakeholder Impact Report. So this kind of data goes into our Stakeholder Impact Report, and we take a lot of effort to put that data in there. And to move that process from 6 months down to 6 weeks was a huge savings, right? So realizing how good their product had become, we packaged it up, we piloted it with some customers, with 10 customers internationally, a few in the United States and a few in Europe and some other places, and actually made a decision last September to go ahead and productize a Sustainability Cloud. 3.5 months later, mid-December, we launched Sustainability Cloud to great fanfare, and I'm going to kind of go through it now. So what's the point, right? Why do we do Sustainability Cloud? There's actually a few different points here. What we're really trying to do is we're creating an accounting app, much like you would have kind of a financial accounting tool, right? And when you have a financial accounting tool, the point is to gather all of your corporate financial data so that A, it's verifiable, it's auditable, it's shareable, it can go roll up through executives and get reported out publicly, and you're not going to get in trouble for it, right? Because you have auditors looking at it and they check off on it. We wanted to have the same kind of processes and same kind of flows in Sustainability Cloud. So we really built it around auditing use cases, and as well as making the calculations very robust and accurate, of course. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to go for a few different use cases. One is for the sustainability manager who needs to use this data, collect this data, report out on this data, but also executives who might want to see the overall highlights and the trends and report that out to their biggest stakeholders. And then of course the auditors, as I already mentioned. So what does this thing actually do? So Sustainability Cloud is a very niche product, right? It's built for people that are in the environmental accounting space or the sustainability management space, right? It's not necessarily built for developers or for admins. It's built for people that speak the lingo, right? So what it does is it takes electricity use, fossil fuel use, travel data, it takes all sorts of data in, and it converts and reports that energy back into what's called metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So I get that that's a mouthful, hard to wrap your head around, but basically what it is there's lots of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. They all warm the planet a little bit differently and a little bit more strongly than others. And so we convert all of those numbers into an equivalent of carbon dioxide, which is the most common greenhouse gas. And because there's so much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we talk about it in terms of metric tons of carbon dioxide, or sometimes megatons and sometimes gigatons, right? And that's how organizations, thousands and thousands of organizations around the world report out to their stakeholders and to governments. When governments are requesting this information, they report it out in terms of metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So that's effectively what this tool does, along with a bunch of other measurements and reports too, of course. All right, so when we launched at GA, we were launching kind of an initial product, a GA product, which we're planning on iterating very quickly. This is a carbon tool only. So at the initial launch, it's going to measure and manage your carbon inventory. Later on, we'll add other things that have to do with more kind of environmental metrics like waste and water, but we'll get to that in a minute. So you calculate your carbon footprint for your buildings, vehicles, and business travel. Those are kind of your top three sources. To give you an example, for Salesforce itself, our number one source of carbon emissions by far are our data centers, right? It's how we deliver our product to you, our customers, and that accounts for the majority of our carbon emissions. In second place is actually business travel. We have employees that fly all over the world and stay in hotels and rent rental cars and things like that. And so that's our second category. Our third category is our office buildings, right? And every company is going to look different. Not every company is going to look like us, but that's how Salesforce. That's the footprint of Salesforce, and we wouldn't really have known that without doing these kinds of analyses, right? So we calculate all those things in the tool. We also ship in the second bullet there. We ship with an extensive set of reference data, and what that means is that's all the data you need to turn something like how much electricity did I use in a building in San Francisco into a metric ton of carbon dioxide, right? And then you report out the carbon dioxide number. So those are that's the reference data we ship with. And then we use some embedded Salesforce tools like Einstein Analytics dashboards, which I'll get to in a minute, and then other really cool Lightning Platform features like the Kanban board and the path and other things like that. Kind of one of the biggest things about doing this process is it's actually a very complicated task. It's kind of a complicated workflow process, and I'm going to show you that in the demo. And so we've leveraged the path and guidance and Kanban board and things like that to help sustainability managers actually do this work, right? It can be tricky when you have 200 buildings. Let's say you have hundreds or maybe even thousands of vehicles in a fleet. How do you keep track of everything? How do you follow those emissions through the year? We're going to use the Kanban view to do that, and I'll show you that in a minute. The other nice thing is if you tune into the Flow session in an hour or so and you get all the goodies out of Flow, you can use things like Flow and Process Builder and other tools to extend Sustainability Cloud. Of course, we wouldn't be doing good with the data if we didn't show really enhanced visualizations. So we use some embedded Einstein Analytics dashboards for some drill downs on the data. And hint, hint, preview, forward-looking statements. We bought Tableau. We're excited to bring Tableau on board. We may or may not be working on some Tableau visualizations to include in the product in the future also. Okay, this is maybe more of the geeky part for the admins and people that would actually be installing and helping to configure Sustainability Cloud for your sustainability teams. It's available for Enterprise Edition and up, so Enterprise Edition, Unlimited, and Performance Editions. It is a managed package installed via the App Exchange. So I was going to ask the question, what is the commonality between Data Mask and Sustainability Cloud? The answer is absolutely nothing, except for they're both managed packages and they're installed from the App Exchange. Sustainability Cloud will work with Sales licenses, Service Cloud licenses, and Lightning Platform licenses. It is a core app. It will work with any of those licenses. And we're going to be doing monthly releases. So we're not tied to the 3 times a year release schedule. We're actually going on our own schedule, releasing mid-month. And finally, on how do you actually enable it for your users, the package comes with 3 Lightning Platform Plus licenses, 3 Einstein Analytics Growth licenses to use the dashboards, and then an effectively unlimited set of permission set licenses to use the core app. I'm going to drill into that for just a second. What that really means is if you have a bigger set of users who need to collect data, report data into the tool, or just want to see what the results are in the core app, that's the typical Salesforce Lightning Platform views, you have effectively an unlimited number of licenses for that. This is really a site license. And if you have more users beyond the 3 that want to see the analytics dashboards, then you have to purchase separate and additional analytics licenses. I'm going to give you a little bit of preview on the roadmap before I go into the demo, and then please ask questions in Twitter or chat if you need to get more information. So we launched in mid-December, as I said. We're moving very quickly through releases. Enhanced international reference data and metrics are our first priority for new releases. We have some coming out in the January release, which should go out today or tomorrow. We have some coming out in the mid-February release, and really. That is just to say extra reference data for country electricity grid emissions and units that we may not have included in the first version, in the GA version. Kind of inside baseball about how do you measure and track natural gas, for instance. Natural gas can be billed in 6 different units, right? We only included 3 in the original project, so 3 more are coming. Expanded Scope 3 tracking. If you're a practitioner in the field, you'll know what that means, and that's essentially referring to things like your business travel, your employee commuting, and other kind of indirect sources of emissions. We are really looking at supply chain tracking. We're getting asked that by customers all the time. And then other things like goal setting and goal tracking, right? So that would be for companies that say, okay, I've measured my emissions, and now I want to know what else I can do, right? And we'll give you recommendations. Using Einstein or using other intelligent system, we'll say, looking at the trend of your emissions, we'll be able to figure out how we can recommend you reducing your emissions in the future. All right, so we're going to go over to the demo. I'm going to give you a quick demo of Sustainability Cloud. And what I'm doing here is giving you actually a quick preview of the end result, right? So this is one of the Einstein Analytics dashboards, and this is really what it looks like after you've put all the data in. You've got years of data in the system. You're looking at trend analysis, and you're looking at other things like that. But I'm going to get back to that in a second. So that was just to give you a little sneak peek. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on our demo user here, who is Alicia. So Alicia Murphy, she's our sustainability manager. And within your companies, you might have a lot of people that do this kind of work with different titles, right? So sustainability manager is one title. This could be done out of the energy management office, out of the COO's office, out of the CFO's office. We've seen a variety of different worker types that actually do this kind of work. So it's not always the sustainability manager, but generally you have a team that's looking at this depending on the company. And as I mentioned earlier, this process can get very complicated, right? When you have 200 buildings to track like Salesforce does, there's a lot to keep track of. And so we actually use the Kanban board, right? And the Kanban board is a workflow management tool, right? It's kind of a generic workflow management tool that engineering teams and product managers have been using for decades. Even car manufacturers have been using it for a long time, but it's starting to come into other ways of working. And so what we're seeing here, I'm going to show you a couple of highlights here. So we have at the top some of our record types. You see commercial building, you see data center facility. If you keep going right, you'll see travel and vehicles. And then just below it, you have what we call the path, right? So these are different stages of where the carbon footprint process is. Okay, you might start with an asset confirmation stage, right? That's where I need to find out, do I own the building? Do I lease the building? Should I include it in my footprint? Should I not? Right, that would be the kind of asset confirmation phase. And you go through various other phases. Data collection might be one. You might do all of these phases or just a handful of these phases. You'll get down to some audit phases too, whether you send it to another person in your company for internal audit, you go out to an external auditor, which many capanies get this kind of data externally audited, and then you go to the finish stage. And you can see as you move these records around on the Kanban view, they'll automatically move to different stages, and they'll recalculate values. The cool thing is you can do things like add processes, right? So I could do a process using Process Builder where, let's say I moved a card from one stage to another, or I moved it from validation to internal audit. That might fire off an email or a chat or post to the auditor to say, okay, this record is ready to view. So what's actually behind this, though? So if I click into one of these records, this is what we call carbon footprint record. So the carbon footprint record is generally for an individual entity, like an individual building, an individual vehicle, but the tool is very flexible. You could do this on a group of vehicles, on a group of buildings. You could do this for a given year, fiscal year or calendar year. You could do it for a variety of years. It's very flexible to do whatever you want. And what we're doing is we're rolling up all of the energy use information for the calendar year, or for the fiscal year, in this case, into one single record that tells us what our carbon footprint is. And that's what these numbers are on the top. You see a number called Scope 1 emissions and two numbers called Scope 2 emissions. That's inside industry lingo for how you report out carbon footprint information. And what we're also doing is we're leveraging the path, right? That's what this is up here, and we're actually stealing this from Sales Cloud. Thanks, Sales Cloud. We are giving guidance for success, to maybe users that aren't really super used to doing carbon footprints, and how you might think about moving through the different phases of your carbon footprint. So you'll see a few things on this record besides just the overall Scope 1. You'll see some summary information about your greenhouse gas emissions and your total energy use, because a lot of reporting regimes want you to report out in a number called kilowatt hours, which is a common energy use metric. But some other things you see is an embedded chart over here. And this is one of the great collaboration use cases in the tool. So if I just glance at the chart as Alicia, and I see, hey, in June, I have a number that really sticks out here. So through most of my year, besides a blip in February, I had a big blip in June in my energy use. And that looks weird, right? I might want to kind of look that over before I give that over to an auditor. So I can drill into that record directly. And of course, I could view the report and do it that way, or I could click on my related list, right? And I could find my June energy report. So let's click into the June energy report. This is actually the point of data entry for the tool. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So you have a few things here, right? So you have your record type at top and your highlights bar along with total electricity in Scope 1. And you also have, as I go down below, different values. And the most important section is here where it says energy consumption values. That's where you're actually getting information from your energy use records, your energy use bills. And you might say, well, one thing I notice is my electricity consumption looks really high. If you're a practitioner in this space, you might notice that this is way out of bounds, and so you can directly edit it. Or you might look for other things. Like, for instance, I'm measuring diesel in liters, and I'm measuring fuel oil in gallons. Well, that looks off. Maybe those units are off. And you can, of course, make those changes. So if I just edit a record and say I change a unit of energy from one value to another, the tool will automatically recalculate the carbon footprint along with consumption summaries and many other factors. Now, one of the most important things about this tool, and probably the biggest value of this tool, is the reference data that we're shipping with. So in this section, under our emissions factors details, are all the reference data that actually helps us convert energy use into carbon emissions. So that could be things like how much carbon comes out of creating electricity in a certain area of the country, right? It could be, for instance, the San Francisco area, the grid is very clean, whereas if you go to the Midwest and the upper Midwest, the grid tends to be very dirty, more carbon, right? And as you go on, you see other conversion factors and refrigerant factors and things like that. What this rolls up to is an Einstein Analytics dashboard view. So what we have here are our analytics dashboards where you can drill into different components of the data and really get some interesting insights. And this data that you're seeing here is actually Salesforce's, more or less Salesforce's data. We report this data publicly in our stakeholder impact report. And because we're very transparent about what our carbon emissions are and what our environmental impact is. And I'm just going to highlight one thing if you look in the electricity use and carbon intensity, because this is an interesting insight. If I look in this area, one thing that we notice is on the left side with the turquoise bars are total electricity use by city, by region. And the top value goes to Chandler, which is our Phoenix, Arizona data center, followed by Chicago. We have a data center there, followed by Ashburn, which is our Washington, D.C. area data center. So you're already seeing that our data centers represent the most, the highest portion of our electricity use, but they don't necessarily correspond to our carbon emissions, right? So this is carbon emissions intensity in the right, and that's representing how much carbon comes out of the energy use. And you're seeing for Chandler, for Phoenix, Arizona, the number is smaller. Why is that? Well, one of the reasons is that the grid is cleaner in Arizona than it is in Chicago. You can also track your renewable energy, though, and you could go to the renewable energy page and say, well, where am I buying energy, renewable energy? where are my biggest impacts in renewable energy purchases. And again, this is actually for Salesforce's use corresponding to the places where we use our most electricity. So that's a brief demonstration of Sustainability Cloud. I would love to answer any questions, and I'll pass it back to Ella.
All right, wow, that's really impressive. It's a great Salesforce on Salesforce story as well. And they put a lot of work into this, and it's great that they're able to share it with other customers who are interested in doing similar things. So can you just explain, is this an add-on product, and can everybody in my org use it, or is it limited to just certain users?
It is an add-on product, and everybody in your org can use it. Yep.
Great. And where does the data actually come from?
It's a great question. The answer is it comes from all over the place. It comes from individual electricity bills from your utility provider. Generally, you can also get it from energy management systems or building management systems. There's a variety of sources of the data. The most common use case for Sustainability Cloud right now is to capture all your data in a spreadsheet and then do a single data upload of all your energy use into the tool.
Got it. Now, does this work for countries outside the United States?
Absolutely does. The reference data is the key here, and we ship with a lot of reference data, some of which we have now for most countries and some of which is coming in very soon for future releases.
And what about integration with utility systems to make it easier to get that data? Yeah.
Well, it turns out there are something like 6,000 different utility systems out there to integrate with. So we're not going to build 6,000 integrations. We rely on the Salesforce principle that we are an API-first platform. So if integrations need to be made, customers can absolutely do that, and they will get a lot of value out of that. We will, as time goes on, we will look to integrate to certain bill payment systems and energy management systems.
All right, well, thank you for sharing that. Now, we have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try to rapid fire through as many questions as I possibly can from those that were asked about mobile and Einstein Search. There's quite a bit, so lots of interest there, so thanks for all those questions. So this is from James, and a lot of folks have been asking this. Do users need to do anything, or does the admin need to do anything once the org is updated to make sure that mobile devices get the upgrade? Or does it just magically happen? Do they need to prepare? What should they do? And it's like, is this just going to pop up? And
this is a question that we get a lot. It just magically happens. There's nothing they need to do to prepare. We've really taken care of that transition flow. So if you don't enable any Lightning apps for mobile, users will actually see the navigation that they saw from their existing version of the mobile app, just in a much nicer workflow with their tabs at the bottom. So it will just happen. You don't have to do anything.
Great, fantastic. So there was a lot of interest in the Get There app that you showed in the demo. Another +1 from Leonard, and as well as a few other folks. So this is a custom component that you built for the demo. But if folks are really super interested in this, is there any way they can get some guidance on how they might be able to build something similar?
There isn't yet. We are considering building a trail on how to build this component. No timeline for that yet, but stay tuned.
Right, great. I think there's quite a few people who want that. So
yes, we have heard that.
And I'll add my
great.
+1 to it as well. So Ruth was asking, is it possible to have an app for mobile only and also have one for desktop only?
Yes, that's a great question. Yes, it is. So your Lightning apps, you can enable all of them for mobile, you can enable some of them for mobile, and you can make apps that are mobile only as well. You have that flexibility on a per Lightning app basis.
Gotcha. And are macros supported in the mobile app?
I don't know the answer to that one off the top of my head. So let's follow up in the community on that.
That was for John. Okay. And Leonard asked if we used a permission set to give access to the new mobile app from the Winter 20 release. After Spring 20, can we just delete it? Or do we need to keep...
Yes, you no longer will need a permission set. So if you enabled the Salesforce mobile app in the winter release when we went GA, you were able to, as an admin, opt in to the upgrade. And if you haven't gotten it yet, you can still do that by adding users to a permission set and trying it out with a group of users. Once the spring release hits, that permission set will no longer be relevant because all of your users are going to be on the new app.
Gotcha. All right, so now let's go to search. Let me try to sneak in a few before we have to wrap up. So Michelle and Jeff were also asking, can you add Einstein Search at the profile level instead of just at the permission set level?
So as I showed in the demo, you can actually enable for user level. It's not enable profile level right now.
Okay.
So, but you control which users gets it. So if you follow the steps that are demonstrated in the demo, you can individually select the people who will see the Einstein search.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
In Einstein Search, are you limited to only objects that have tabs? In Lightning Search, you have to have a tab to get results.
So we are only limited to certain objects right now. We are only supporting accounts, opportunities, cases, very common objects. But we are expanding to custom objects soon in the future.
Okay. And Benjamin wants to know, where can he find like all the possibilities for different ways to construct a search string? Is there a cheat sheet on that, or?
Yeah. So in the Winter 20, there's a good amount of documentation available. What kind of natural language queries that we are supporting right now. And if you go to our website, that also has a good amount of documentation available, what kind of natural language we are supporting.
Right.
And just to add on, with every release, we'll keep adding it on. As we are launching the new natural language capabilities, we will add those in the documentation. So please watch out the docs.
Okay, great. And Francis wanted to know, will Einstein Search be available for testing in the sandbox?
Yes, you can test on the sandbox.
So she's not seeing the license. So if you're not seeing it in the
so
sandbox,
for the licensing, you need to copy from production to the sandbox. And once you do the license copy using the license copy tool, and once you do that, then you'll be able to see the licenses.
So that sounds like they need to wait for Spring 20.
Yes, in the Spring 20, you probably don't need to do that. Yeah.
So,
But right now in the Winter 20, the previous one, you can copy the licenses in the prod to Sandbox in order to enable it on Sandbox and test on Sandbox. So it's possible. You don't need to wait for Spring 20.
So as long as you have a sandbox that was created after Winter 20,
Yeah.
it should work. Okay, gotcha. Lots of people are posting that they have enabled Einstein Search, and they're loving it. So
Awesome. Thank you
lots
so
of
much.
great- so
Please
thank you.
keep sending us feedback. We love it.
Thank you for the feedback. And don't forget, you want to enable Einstein Search
Yes.
in your org and post in the release readiness community that you enabled it, and you'll get some swag.
In next 1 week. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. If we didn't get to your question live, don't worry, we're going to follow up with you within the next few days. And also we have recorded this so you can rewatch it or share it with your colleagues. So please come back again a little bit later at 11:45 Pacific for Lightning Flow. Be sure to come back for that because we got some great stuff for you there. Now, I can't wait to hear how you're using new features to innovate. So let's keep the conversation going in the release readiness community where all Trailblazers can meet to be release ready.